I have a ridiculous Greek last name that's a lot of letters. It's like someone's, slammed on a keyboard and they all came out. Did I introduce you to someone that you wanted to meet? Did you get into a relationship? My company is called Agape Match. There's a lot of things to consider in what makes someone successful in using us. What are you like on dates? We get feedback after dates. And based on their date feedback, we can see like, oh, this person has no self awareness of what dates are like. This is going to be like a bull in a china shop. It's really hard to change men if they are not interested in changing. I'm begging men to go to therapy. If more men went to therapy, not only would they attract really great relationships, but more women would want to date them, because studies have shown that if a man says that he's in therapy on the first or second date, women are 80% more likely to accept another date with them. I'll give you an example. Like one of our clients, he's just really boring on dates. I can't explain it. He's perfect on paper, but on dates, he's just boring. And we had to refer him to one of our coaches on staff who works specifically with men, to, reignite fun on dates, how to build sexual tension, how to create rapport, like these sort of things that are needed for a first date to happen instead of it being like an interview. 5 to 30% of men, depending on where you live, exhibit avoidant attachment tendencies, and they deeply need to see a therapist to work on their inner child. And I promise you, you will be in happier relationships if you work on that. So I tell women, it's not your job to fix men. If you're meeting a man who's leaving you anxious and leaving you confused, you need to give yourself permission to let them go. But sometimes there's this assumption, right? Like when they call my office, that like everyone speaks Greek. And in fact, our chief operating officer is Mexican American. So he's had to learn a little bit of Greek to just get by sometimes, because it'll say like Kalispera, and he's like, okay, are you okay? Are you having a stroke? Just because someone is Greek, it doesn't mean that they're a good person. It doesn't mean that they have philotimo, like this whole mythology that we sell Greek Americans on, about like what Greek people are like. People always ask me all the time, like, oh, but you see, you married Greek and it's easier. And I go, is it? I didn't want to excuse any bad behavior just because he was Greek. Because I've seen this with some of my clients in the past, where it's like, a Greek woman, she meets a Greek guy, and, he's showing her all these red flags. And instead of just breaking up with him, she'll say, but he's Greek. When am I going to find another good Greek guy? And it's like, who gives a shit? Like, it doesn't matter if he's Greek. Like, I provide a lot of free things online, right? There's all this free content on TikTok, all this free content on Instagram. I get on TV. There's going to be a book coming out soon. Like, there's all this other free stuff. 10 years ago, I met someone who's Greek, and at the end, I was like, well, this is how much it costs. And they said, I didn't know I'd have to pay for this. And I go, what do you mean? And at the time, my office was in the Empire State Building on the 59th floor. Like, I've got rent to pay. You just met like 4 of my employees. Like, what do you mean you thought this was free? And he goes, well, I thought the archdiocese would be paying you because of this misconception of like what I do. In the Greek community, it's seen as like not a real job. I don't have like a massive following. It's something like 40,000 on Instagram. Created a personable brand, a very authentic brand that people want to follow. And, I share a lot about not only my business, but also like, my musings every day. And, oh, here's my husband. And he's like wholesome masculinity content. And I think with a new challenge, and this is a very weird and such an insufferable thing I'm about to say, but balancing, the online persona with the offline persona, because I am the same person you see online. But when I meet people that follow me, like, I have to remind them, like, I don't know you, like, you know me. Philosophy on this is, if you intend to get married and have children one day, you shouldn't move in with someone before you get engaged, because I fear that it's a lot harder to get out of a lease than an engagement. And people will stay together longer just because of that lease than they should. People who are like, but I need to know what they're like. Just go on vacation with them for 2 weeks. You'll know everything you need to know. I think it's a red flag when people don't take any responsibility as to like why their divorce happened. Well, now I know they're going to talk poor about them on dates. No one wants to hear you talk poorly about a partner on a date. Instead you could say like what you learned from that relationship. Usually in an Agape intensive, we'll conduct a dating audit on all of our members, and then we'll go through dating patterns. And it's kind of like, we tend to, I love that you were to use the word autopsy. I might start using that too. Like, we never look back as to like why it didn't work out. We just say, oh, he cheated on me, or, oh, he made me feel like shit, or, oh, he was emotionally abusive. And those are all valid reasons to break up with someone. But how did they make you feel while you were dating them? How long did you date them for, and how did they make you feel? These are the two most important questions, because once you do that, then you might see patterns in the last 3, 4, 5 people that you dated, that like, oh, you stay too long, or, oh, you break up after 2 or 3 months. Like, you've always been in a situationship. Some people might say, you know what, Marie, I've never been in a relationship. Well, that's a pattern in itself too. What's going on that we're unable to latch after 3 or 4 dates? Not just you, the people that you're going out with, the people that you're choosing to spend time with. These are things that we would look at in a dating audit, to figure out, like, what is the pattern that we're seeing. A very popular pattern, for instance, is pendulum dating. And I see this a lot, where it's like, okay, this guy I dated, he had, he was XYZ. And so in the next person I'm dating, I'm not going to have any XYZ. I'm only going to do ABC. So you find like the complete opposite person. And that doesn't mean that's a match for you. You're still always looking for balance, right? Or like another popular dating pattern is dating the same person with a different name. So you're just dating the exact same person every single time, and you have the same issues every single time. And I'd wager to guess that your father or mother have the same relationship that you're exhibiting, because that's what you understand. Divorce rates are at their highest in the first 2 or 3 years of marriage, right? The first, second, and third year is the highest rate of divorce. And what usually happens in those years? Usually we have a kid. A lot of people decide to have children in those first 3 years, right? Or maybe they might struggle to have kids, but there's this new family planning happening in the first 3 years of a lot of marriages. And what happens a lot is that first of all, there's a lot of things happening simultaneously. So first off, whatever problems you had as a relationship, whatever cracks that relationship had, they will turn into canyons the moment a child is introduced, especially when it's 2 weeks old. If it's your first kid, it's 2 weeks old. So the learning curve is at the highest it's ever been. Like when you have a second kid, forget it. There's no learning curve. You know what to do. You don't even have a diaper bag. You just put a diaper loose in your backpack, in your purse, or in your back pocket, and you're set to go. All of those cracks in your relationship have turned into canyons, right? Your communication style, your reliability. There is an identity shift. You go from being the hot girlfriend, the hot boyfriend, the hot wife, the hot husband, immediately to the mom, the dad. And that is really unsexy. You're talking about things that you didn't talk about before with your partner. You're doing things. You're emotionally drained. You're physically drained. Your identity has shifted. And if you don't snap out of it, and I'll tell you how to snap out of it. If you don't snap out of it, then essentially and eventually you happen to be roommates who are raising a kid together. It took me and my husband 15 months to snap out of it. We had to start scheduling date nights. We had to invest a shit ton in our relationship to snap out of being roommates who have a kid. A very small thing that you can do, for instance, is doing one service to your partner each day. And even if that means just making them a cup of coffee or bringing them their tea, that actually helps a lot. One of the biggest markers of a relationship is, do you check in with them? It's called the 10-minute rule. This is a study funded by the National Institute of Health. You should check in with your partner every day for 10 minutes in non-maintenance talk. So for instance, talking to them about anything that has nothing to do with your house, your kids, your bills, your job. Most people don't know a lot of matchmakers, but because I'm in the dating industry and I know a ton of matchmakers, I feel like the dating space is oversaturated, right? Even people who are not in the dating industry space have dating books, right? Like a book just came out from someone who was on The Bachelor. For every business owner, luck is certainly something that has something to do with, there's always luck. I believe that my superpower is my extroversion. And I've been able to use that superpower in a way to help people, but it also comes out in, the content that I share for free on my social media that, makes people feel like they can trust me, or that I have an innate understanding to make their problems feel a little bit more valid. But I really enjoy doing the retreats. It's just in general, I love helping women to meet at our retreats, women who are at the same place on the Monopoly board, right? I think that makes people feel like they've joined a sorority in like the best way. And I love that I'm able to provide that sort of environment. One of my favorite books for people who want to help, especially their marriage, but their long-term relationship, is by Dr. Terry Orbuck, and it's called. That book is like my marriage Bible. Always be dating. That really helps you reconnect with your spouse. A lot of people can fix their marriages, but it's a matter of getting help. It's really hard to do it on your own sometimes.